Добрый вечер.
Здравствуйте, товарищи.
2 июня состоялся пленум Центрального...
Yo. R.A.D.I.C. How are you, bro?
I am great. Let me, Sir, what's good, bro?
So happy to see you.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't turn the camera often.
I figured, yeah, it's a great pleasure. Like I feel privileged today to have a picture.
Come on,
But yeah,
man. Come on, man.
yeah, it really is.
You got a perfect one to put.
You seem to, be rather like in the background.
Yeah. It's a vibe, you know. For some reason, I just feel more comfortable just being in the observation place, you know.
Mm-hmm. But once you're like, I've seen some images like shout outs and big props for you in the 3-piece and your ties. Dude, that is fire.
I appreciate it. I grew up in the church, you know, so that was something that culture prides itself on. Like, how well can you freshen up? You feel like
No, that tie is, but especially like the style of the tie just completely got me. It's like super dope.
Some people argue that, like, you know, the tie shouldn't be the center, but I argue, fuck it, do what you want. If you like it, wear it. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Lighting is horrible. The sun decided to come out and fight my actual lighting here, so now I look like a unlockable character in a video game.
Let's just dive straight into it. And I obviously, like, I had some fun scrolling through your Instagram, which seems to be ain't that far back, but you had an interesting quote on like times to widen and deepen your knowledge. I think you were referring Jacob Collier.
Yep.
So what would you say? Where are you like right now? Which stage or like which phase are you right now? Are you deepening or widening?
I think I am transitioning to widening from deepening. I'm in the middle of releasing like a 3-volume project, and that's like, okay, look at the depths I've gotten to so far with what I've learned, you know. So a lot of my focus is on like, okay, let's put these out into the world, and once that's like given out, then I'm like, okay, all right, let's learn some more stuff so that we can make some more magic, you know. So I think I'm in a transition phase.
That's cool. Transition phase is always fun.
It can be scary though. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but you know, when you say you do this thing and then you reach a point where it seems like you're not doing it as much as you once were, it make you question yourself, like, am I holding up my end of the bargain to myself, you know? But I have to remind myself, okay, you're just transitioning to widening apparently. So yeah, it's always a mental battle for me.
Interesting, like very a contrast to that shy trait is you changing stylistically, changing styles several times over quite short period of time. So if like going back, like the first pieces that I saw you playing, like obviously from the guitar world,
I've got you.
To see how your style changed several times is very interesting, which takes a curiosity, and it takes, you know, people want to be willing to explore those areas. So do you still go, like, is it a battle for you to explore those new things, or are you more excited about diving into them?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I attribute a lot of that to my ADD. But it's more exciting for me because I feel like I have the privilege of not being well known, you know? So there's no pressure to produce a certain type of content. You know what I'm saying? So I, because music has always been a part of my life and I've experienced so many different types of music, I kind of get excited when I remind myself, oh yeah, I could just make something completely different and wild and just try it out, you know? And I still do, like, I still practice guitar, I still play guitar, but a lot of times my change in, I guess, genre, I guess, comes from obstacles. Like I might, like one time I injured myself and I couldn't play guitar for a while. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not playing guitar. But it's like, okay, so what do we do now? Okay, let's take it without guitar. Great. And then I'll just dig into that. I'm like, oh, this is cool too. And then I just like really get excited about, you know, and then make more and more music in that way. And then I remember, oh yeah, I play guitar. And then I'm like, oh, okay, let me go practice again now that I'm actually healed. I forget that the reason I stopped playing was because I like got hurt. Like it's again ADD, but yeah. So I guess to answer the short answer is it's exciting rather than a battle on that.
That's cool. No, that's real. That's kind of proves the point that you're more curious. Just like for example, one other thing, like one other command that you wrote is finding your cornerstone and keeping like holding to that to it and keeping to that. Did you find your cornerstone? Like, are you able to say what it is?
I do believe I found my cornerstone in general of who I am. But also I'm still kind of discovering how that translates in different areas of life, you know. It's hard to put it in words because when you start assigning words to it, it almost like closes it off, you know. But I could point at it and say that's part of my core versus this is just some shit I'm trying out. Yeah. So I know a lot of it is experimentation. That's a big, like, just from all the randomness that happens in life, how can we align them in ways where they coincide? Like, what's the one way that we get these things to work together? And I try to find that. Doesn't always work out, but I noticed that that's where that's the path I tend to travel down.
I found that little piece, and he wrote, find the cornerstone of who you are, find it and hold it close, firmly, feel it in its steadfastness, know its truth, value it. No matter how many things change around you, it will stay. And I find it very powerful.
Well, now that you're saying, I remember a bit of what I was going through when I posted that, and it was, you know, life be lifing, and everybody goes through some things that might to them break them or make them like, I didn't even know I was this type of person. And I discovered it because I went through this crazy thing, and I'm like, oh wow, I used to look down on people who did this, and here I am, you know. But you reach a point where you really know who you are. You can separate that from your trauma response to things, and you gotta love that person with all its flaws, with all its things you love about it, things you hate about it, all the whole package. I've realized for Anton that when I hold on to that, I can make it through those tough times when everything else is trying to make me question who I am, you know. Or if I really discover that, oh, I was placing my value in things that don't really matter that much. So I have to dig into myself, like, okay, if all of this goes awry, you know, if, for example, with my injury, if I never get better, you know, if this is just like the best it's going to be, who am I separate from that? Can I just not just be depressed all the time, thinking about my knee? My knee ain't me, you know? And so I was going to a point where I was trying to stop proving myself to myself, or like trying to be who I thought I was supposed to be, and just observing who I am and just moving according to that. And that's different for everybody in terms of how that looks. But I know that it was from a place not of mastery, but of learning. So I'm still figuring that out. I just know that's my goal. You know?
It's interesting. That's very, very like definitely. We'll circle back to that. Like some tech, obviously that I'd love to talk about like geeky nerdy stuff. One of them being looks like you are a Studio One user from day one. Is it?
Yeah.
So you're kind of like you're stuck with that DAW, and that's basically it, right? How did that appear in your life?
So, well, I guess technically, would that be day one? I guess technically I started with, there's a long, okay, so
Go ahead.
the first song I've ever did in terms of studio was actually in high school on Fruity Loops. And I didn't even have it, my friend had it in his room. And I made a song called Juice and Gushers. It's hilarious. It's very specific to the high school culture. So, but anyway, that was the first experience I had with actual production software. But then because of my choral background, I was using more notation software. And so when I had like this band in college, I would make songs for them, but on the notation software. I was like clicking in the notes and stuff and clicking in the drum patterns and stuff like that. And then after my accident, I had Fruity Loop Mobile on my phone, and I was making music on that. And then once I was able to get back to my computer, and I was like, okay, I need my own actual studio setup. I looked for deals on online, and there was this one interface because I looked up what do I need to start. They're like, get an interface. So I looked up the interface, and it came with Studio One Artist for free. And I'm like, that's the cheapest one in my budget. I guess that's what I'm getting.
Okay.
So I guess at the beginning of my actual production journey, for real, Studio One was a start, but it wasn't the first DAW that I've touched, if that makes sense.
Okay, obviously one that you are now very, you're basically an expert in, rocking it for so many years. And well, obviously, yeah. The songs that you make them in Studio One in the box, right? Well, obviously you mentioned that the 404 is like that was a tremendous impact on you. So I guess this is like the extension of that studio.
I primarily use 404 for performance, not necessarily for creation. I want to get into creation. I still plan to. I started getting into it, but yeah, we'll get back around to that. But the conversation is me and creation. I have to make sure I remind myself, oh yeah, I have to finish at a creative 404.
How do you feel about that though? Because to me, the 404 sequencer is tedious. So
I feel you.
Is it?
I think that's what made me stop. The first time I was like, this is a lot. And then I did drums method, which was actually a lot easier. But then I got distracted by, when you reach a point in anything, well, I'll say when I reach a point in anything that I feel like, okay, I can make a solid thing with this, it really is hard to suck at it again. So I started working on the SV404. I'm like, okay, I have this idea. And just from the time it took for me to get that first part of it out, I forgot the rest of it. And I'm like, what is this garbage I'm making right now? I don't like this. I don't like being bad at something I think I'm good at. This is bad. I just go back to Studio One. But I also feel like there's a benefit there somewhere, like enforcing your brain to operate differently, Like it might, I don't know, maybe not, but maybe it might, lead me to some different concepts I wouldn't have thought about.
Is it? Do you feel that too? Like that the different machines, because they impose so hard a different workflow, they just spawn different. Like you can't create the same music that you do in your DAW on that machine simply because it's a completely different environment. It forces you to make it a bit different, which ends up in slightly different, like slightly or quite different music.
Absolutely. Even as you were saying that, it made me have like a realization, because I just did I just watched a lesson that John Mayer did on guitar. And he was saying one of the things we should do is, rather than make the guitar force you to play the things that you know. Try to take 5 minutes to like not play what the guitar lends to you, but just think of what you want, period. And then try to play that. And it seems so simple, but I realize I've rarely done, I'm so academic in my head. And so like, I'm working on being more free. And I just, as you said that, realized that maybe I need to take that approach to creation, and maybe that will make creating on different DAWs easier for me. I'm going to try that out.
Would you attribute, can't say for sure, but from your timeline, the change, there was a change in sound once you touch ground with Controllerise? Or I think Matt mentioned that you play guitar, and this is how I found it. So would you, is there a correlation between being introduced to that group and you like expanding into that beat style?
Absolutely, bro. It changed just about everything, to be real. Because before I got there, you know, I knew what I knew in terms of theory or whatnot. I've been making music for a while, but I just found myself being really, even to me, I would make stuff and I'm like, this is weird. I like it, but this is weird, you know? And so it'd just be like my own little pet. My songs would just be my little pets that every time I wanted to just hear some weird stuff, I'd play it. Wouldn't let anybody hear it for real, except like my close friends, but you know? Then I went to Controllerise and I was like, well, first of all, Controllerise itself was dope. And that I was just done. I was like, wow. And then I went to the specific place called Auxilla in Controllerise, where they would like people would play their own beats and you know, and I started hearing what they were doing. And I'm like, this is like it seemed like if I wasn't so apprehensive about my creations and let myself fully explore it, it would be within these sounds that they're making here. But here they are fully comfortable because everybody here is supportive of each other. And they're like, yo, this is dope. Oh, let me freestyle on that. Oh, let me record a video, freestyle to your beat. I don't even know you, bro, but I'm going to freestyle to your beat and that's cool. And I'm like, I found my home. And so I think it allowed me to remove a barrier I didn't even know I had and to fully like dive into the craziness, you know? And it also made me want to hear other people's music. So I'm like, I'm not the only crazy one. Like so many people have these crazy, wild ideas. It's like, we can actually hear them out loud in front of people and see what it does and how people respond to it. And yeah, that changed everything.
Obviously, congratulations on playing the main stage there as well, and like getting the spot which you deserve. Obviously, you mentioned you struggle with like being in front of people. Did you enjoy it in the end?
I did, and it's weird because it's like I don't mind being in front of people if, and this is not necessarily a good thing, I just know this is where I am. If the thing they're paying attention to isn't necessarily me, it's something that I brought, you know? So it was very comfortable for me in that situation. So I'm like, yo, these are my people. This is the music we all jam to. I'm glad I could give my interpretation of this dopeness that we've created here. And when they're dancing and they're you know, they're looking at me, sure, but I'm sitting down behind my screen, and what you're hearing is what you're really paying attention to. For some reason, that's easier for me to deal with, you know. But not that this is bad, but Zoom sessions where it's just me that people are looking at, you know, I struggle a little bit, just a smidge. Yeah. So, but the control experience was just from the beginning amazing. Like, of course, I was nervous, as I feel like anybody would be. There's some butterflies in the stomach, but it was a nerve that I was used to because I, you know, sang in choir and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, be in there, we're gonna do this. And it was a good time.
Like one of the things that to me are very characteristic to you is that handling of vocals in tracks. I've never seen this before, and it feels to me that you handle voice samples as an instrument. I can't even tell, like, when I'm not that educated to tell, like, oh, this must be R.A.D.I.C and down, pitched down, or some rapper. I don't know. I sometimes, like, you do perform on some of the tracks, is right? Or am I tripping?
There's some of them where I'm actually using my own vocals. Those are not as prevalent as the ones where I use like already existing artists and acapellas and stuff like that. But soon to change. I am actively, intentionally working on using more of me in my music. Yeah, working on that. So stay tuned.
That's cool.
Yeah, I do use it sometimes, but mostly acapellas.
And that's what influenced that? How did you get there? Like, because it's such a nice, it's such a wild vibe.
I think that's more so my choral background and my being raised in the church, specifically the Seventh-day Adventist church. Without getting into religion and all that, one thing I have to definitely applaud the Seventh-day Adventist church culture is their appreciation for close harmonies, for vocal music in general, choral music a lot. In high school, we had a culture. I went to like a private boarding Seventh-day Adventist high school in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And I lived in New Jersey. So it's like I only went home during Christmas and New Year's, but I was living there like I was in college. I was like 14. But the culture from there and the college I went to afterwards, singing was a big thing, a big thing. Even if you weren't in choir, we would just have like these worship services and everybody can sing. And it was 3-part, 4-part harmony, 5-part harmony, everybody pitching in. If you didn't know the part, people would like elbow you and teach you. Like, yeah, join in. This is why we sing this part. And then it's hard to explain, but from there, vocals being experimented with just became a norm, even outside of making beats. So when I started making beats, I realized I would just hear certain things in my head vocally because that's what we should do for fun. There's a video somebody just posted on Facebook of before choir practice. We just like got into the lobby. Somebody started beatboxing and we just started singing at it. And then they switched the beat up and then we added some other stuff and we're just having fun, man. And I didn't know until it started happening that would contribute so heavily to how I use acapellas now. And a lot of the minute details is from the academic part of being in choir, where, my instructor, he would say, all right, you're singing this note, but this is a quarter note and you're filling up 3/4 of the quarter note. I need the whole quarter note to be sung and then the rest after it's done, like specifics of core vocal rhythm and stuff like that. And so that's kind of drilled into my brain from 10 years in choir. So that also contributes. So I think, a lot of the vocal stuff is from my choral experience.
And this is exactly, I'm lacking that knowledge entirely, but it sounds so intricate. It's not just, an octave up and an octave down. What I would do with samples is like, oh yeah, let's have a high in there. So it's but probably with the harmonies going on. Is it also like why you are gravitating towards Jacob Rebillet as an inspiration?
Совета национальностей Верховного Совета СССР.
Jacob Collier, he's...
sorry, yeah, Rebillet is the mark, the second point.
I also look up to him too. So Jacob Rebillet was like a perfect combination. They're my mentors and they don't know it yet. But in choir, we actually met Jacob in London. I forgot what year, but we sang a concert and he was actually there. And he heard us sing.
Oh, wild.
And from there, I was like, okay, who's this Jacob person? Everybody's like, oh, Jacob Collier. I'm like, who's Jacob? And I looked up some stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is ridiculous. His brain, his brain. And then, you know, the close harmonies and stuff that he uses is like a textbook example of what we appreciate in the Seventh-day Adventist church culture. You know, those close harmonies. Not everything is close harmonies, but when they are, we're just like, oh wow, this is amazing. But he has an ability to, when he desires to, make it sound as simple as regular, you know? And sometimes he does it for the academics, where he's like, all right, this is gonna be some crazy nonsense. I'm gonna scramble your brain. This ain't for everybody, this is for y'all, you know? But the ability to do that, that's a big thing I try to learn from him, try to make complex things at least feel simple.
I mean, that's every time I hear him talking, it's almost like as if he's tricking me into believing that it's simple. Like when he goes like, oh, every note goes with every note. Just look at this. And I'm like, you demon, you're playing me real hard.
I mean, there's an argument to be had that, you know, maybe he is, but if he does, then technically, you know, mission complete.
Yeah,
You know, it'd be like, oh, it's not supposed to be simple, but it is now. Wait, oh, snap. It's simple. Thanks for deceiving me, Jacob. I appreciate it.
First of all, he makes music approachable, and he always emphasizes that you should just make music. There is time for academics, and it's definitely it's basically a shortcut. It's not really a shortcut, but if you know the background of that, many things just become much easier because you understand them, and therefore you're not just tapping in the dark and trying things out. But he still says, like, just make music, right?
I mean, to be honest, he almost really advocates for the opposite. Where I got the whole widening and deepening thing was from a masterclass he did at my college. And he was saying, this was funny, one of the teachers tried to like get him on their side. Like, Jake, what did you say that academics and theory and learning and practice is very, very, very important. You should do that, right? You know, to try to get him to tell the students like, hey, you should, you know? And he was like, actually, no, it's important. But the first thing people should do is just play and have fun and feel it. You know, it's like, and I know Victor Wooten, the bass player, he says this too, like when you learn language, you know, if there's a kid speaking baby language, you don't like say, hey, you're wrong. It's not gaga goo goo. This is a bottle. You don't say that, but you just speak properly to them and let them get it as they get along, you know? So he was saying like it's really backwards how they reserve feeling music for PhD and master level music. But at the beginning, they want you to bore yourself with all this academic and numbers and stuff. He was like, no, learn how it feels and how to talk the language. And then later on, when you get the labels, you're like, oh, so this thing that I already know how it feels, that's what they call it? Okay, cool. Now I could communicate this feeling with other people, or I could communicate this feeling with people who, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the approach I'm trying to adapt when I talk to other people. I'm like, hey, academics is important and it is cool, but if you got the feeling, understand that you're actually doing it like the right way. Don't feel bad, don't feel like you're behind. Like if you feel what you make and you really know how to tap into how you feel about music, people don't know how to do that yet. And that I feel like should be the first one, you know? Like figure out how not how you think you're supposed to feel about music or, you know, what's popular. But if you figure out all right, I want to feel happy. What does happy mean for me in terms of music? Great. And then later on, you can figure out, oh, okay, so I tend to like major 7 chords. Those make me happy, apparently. I didn't know they were called major 7, but every time I did a major 7, I liked it. So I used it in a lot of my shit, you know, or I like 85 BPM stuff. I didn't know. I just knew that was a real chill, you know, it just felt good. It was hitting my chest, like, you know, learn that after, but do the things to make you feel now, you know?
Talking about those things that make you feel good, like where would you put your your musical comfort zone? Like where do you feel comfortable when in music? Like what BPM wise and sound wise?
Like between 80 and 90 BPM for most of what I do. I'm realizing, at least as of late. And I realized also, even my early stuff, some of them were just ridiculous BPMs that actually were like 85, but I put 170. And I was just, I mean, you know, I guess mathematically it all lines up, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I realized a lot of current things I do is around between 80 and 90, sometimes 75 if it's really like trying to like really have somebody introspective, you know. In terms of tonality, I don't know. It just depends on the beat. But BPM, that's usually my Goldilocks.
A mood that you tend to fall back to when you just want to feel in the zone?
It depends on what I need to be in the zone for, to be real. Like if I'm trying to just like chill and be, if nothing's sad, if I'm just trying to like chill and I'm not like trying to recover from anything, I'm not like, you know, down. I usually go towards like real heavy rhythmic beat patterns, like with a lot of percussion. You know, if I'm feeling like I need to think about something or introspective, I probably have like no snares, no, just all kicks. You know, just all kicks the music, and I'm just there, zoned out, just letting it hit in my chest. You know, but that's me discovering my emotions in music. You feel me?
Very interesting.
That was an accidental discovery, to be honest.
Is it also how you start then? Or is it like a common starting ground that you just make percussion and kind of evolve the track from there? Or do you get the melody first in your head or something like that?
I actually have a, funny enough, I throughout the day, and I think this is, I don't know if this is ADD, I don't know what this is, but it's a thing. Where I would just throughout the day hear random melodies or random beat patterns in my head, and I'll voice record them. I just realized my phone is bloody into that. I have like a voice note app, and I have 451 voice notes.
This is so dope.
Just like beat ideas or melodies that just come in my head as I'm just doing stuff, or I might hear. A lot of this is also attributed to choir too. Because we used to do this thing where we got to a point where we go to a concert, and to start the song, he would play one note, and we just have to know, okay, this is this song, these are our parts. And if there's another song that started with the same note, he'll play like the first chord, you know, to differentiate. But he was trying to get us to like, okay, when you hear this note or you hear this interval, it's this whole song we're starting right now. And so when I hear those intervals out in the world, I think of those choir songs. But also when there's like my favorite songs that I listen to frequently, and I hear the beginning of them in other stuff, I think of that song because my brain is already doing that.
Wow.
And a lot of times how I get the things to combine of things that don't really belong with each other. But it might have some interval that like my brain's like, oh yeah, that's the same start of this song over here. What if I could just smash them together? I'll just voice record the idea or put in my notes, hey, song idea, combine these two things and see if it works.
How cool.
A lot of times that's how I start my music, just based on what idea I'm trying to bring to life in my backlog.
This is crazy. This is really, wow. This is such an amazing technique. So you literally just come back home and pull something from your bag of ideas and expand on that then? So you translate it into
either that, or if I'm feeling like super inspired, I'm like, all right, let's start fresh. And I just start from, when I'm starting fresh, I usually always start from drums. But I do have this backlog of ideas. I definitely need to, even now I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I need to get back into that. sometimes it lets me be lazy, which isn't good because it's like, okay, I haven't documented. I don't need to work on it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah. Fresh start usually comes first, but backlog, it just depends on what part of the idea came to me, and I'll start with that.
Uh-huh. This, would you call this your inspirational fallback, so to speak? Like, as like if you lack inspiration, if you don't know what to start, is it you just go into your phone? Is that?
Yeah, that's what happens.
That's a sidechain hack.
Something, and like if sometimes I try to expand, I'm like, okay, this is actually garbage, but I'll save it and I'll get back to it later. You know, you never know what's going to happen, but that's a strat. Yeah, you hit it on the head.
Now that you said this with, I'll save it and I'll get to back later. Do you like, is it a common technique that you do? Just revisit old pieces and see if you can take them somewhere else or like expand?
Sometimes. Like for example, the chili chili con carne flip I just did on Instagram. That was actually an old one that I started on, and I got to a point where I'm like, I don't know if this is hitting for me yet, but I forgot to name it. Usually, if I'm working on something and it doesn't I don't feel it for real, I don't name it because I usually name things how the music makes me feel about it. And so it'll just be like the 09/22/2019 Anton Reed 3. You know? So it just got lost in the vast ocean of those. And then I heard I was listening to Matthew Jameson's new project, which is amazing. Yeah. And that inspired me to like dig into some of my stuff. Like, all right, let me work on something. It inspired me to work. And in listening to one of my samples, it reminded me of the Chili Con Carne original. And I was like, oh yeah, I was working on. So it's it's really it's hard to answer, but that does end up happening, but not always intentionally. That I go back and dig into stuff.
Seems like you have a very associative way of thinking. Well, you just said that this is how you've been trained in choir, by having strong associations, by recalling whole melodies through just one note. Seems like it trained it a lot, because this would like this sounds just so amazing, so like out there to me, because I have zero association. I wouldn't even, someone would play me a song I know, and I would be, oh, that's a nice song. Who is it? It's like, what do you mean, who is it?
I actually think more people, I think everybody kind of has this to a degree. Because like, if I've realized when you think of a song out of nowhere, everybody has had a moment, at least one, where you're like, oh yeah, I like this one song. And a lot of times when people like just try to let themselves hear it and they sing it like, oh yeah, that song, that what they just sing a lot of times is in the right key, and it's tuned properly, or it's like maybe a half key off, and they didn't even know. They just was like, I like that song, and I'm thinking about it in my head, and in your head, it's already correct. It's just when we try to do it intentionally, we get in our own way. So I think it's something everybody has. It's just that because of my core experience, that specific, I guess, muscle got trained.
Absolutely. Given you work in Studio One, and is it like, are you wild on VSTs, or do you just work with the tools that the DAW provides?
Oh man, I was wild on VSTs for a while. And now that I'm understanding them more, it was probably not the right move, but now I can use them better. Like I had FOMO for a while because I felt like people were doing things that I just couldn't do in my DAW. And I'm like, what VSTs are they using? And I'll get the VSTs and I'm like, I still can't make it sound like that. What are they doing with this VST? But I realized that, well, now I'm in the process of learning that a lot of the things I have default in my DAW can do it. I just got to figure out what knob it is to turn, or how to manipulate that way, because it's all just frequencies, man. I think a lot of VSTs just kind of combined a lot of the stock VSTs every DAW has and just made it one step versus your DAW can't do it. And I just couldn't realize that for a while. So now I'm in a place where I already have all these VSTs that I didn't need to have in the first place. But now that I'm understanding them more, it's like, okay, now I have a lot of options. So I try not to be too VST heavy because overproduced things bother me as well. But now that I'm learning, specifically mastering, that's when I go VST heavy. But in terms of the creation process, I try to just keep it. Not even that I try. I used to just try to be VST heavy. Now I'm trying to just be centered on the idea. Like, does the idea call for all these VSTs? If so, then put it in there. If not, then don't. But it doesn't have to be there in order for you to be a good producer. You know?
Is there any specific, let's call it FX, or like any specific thing that you're exploring right now? Like, what would it be? Is it like, say, in terms of like manipulating the sound?
Gotcha. I am trying to get better at listening to a sample and creating something that is more than a loop. I want to create like an entire journey with the sample. Does that make sense? Because I feel like it's not a bad thing. Sometimes the loop is the vibe, you feel me? But I'm realizing that there are times when I would make something, I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I want it to go somewhere. And then I get stuck. So I'm working on between VSTs or maybe listening and manipulating different parts of a sample or playing something, combining it. Even creating things from scratch. I'm working on creating a full journey of music rather than only being able to create this loop of sound that feels good. Does that make sense?
Yes, though this sounds to me more like a production-wise, like this sounds to me your production journey, if that makes it, like this is how you want to create tracks. What I mean with the effects is, let's say you have your loop, or you have your synth part you're laying down. Like, what would you like? What is your current go-to to kind of change or alter that lead? Does it make sense?
Yeah, the go-to things I do to like change things up if something I already have there to manipulate it. I experiment with keys, so I'll pitch things down, I'll pitch things up. A very quick go-to I do is if something is major, I'll find something unrelated and put it in a relative minor key and slap it on there, make it work theoretically and see if it works, and vice versa. Sometimes there's certain, as even when you do that, because of the nature of keys, there might be a part of it that doesn't fit. And I used to just be like, all right, well, this sample doesn't work. But nowadays I just like, oh, let me just cut that part out and see if it sounds nice. And sometimes the subtractive process is what makes the magic happen. You know, those are like some quick go-tos I do when it comes to manipulating.
That's cool. I mean, that shows the educated you there. That's the academic R.A.D.I.C. You just said words I don't understand. Having the major key and then changing into the relative minor key, I would like. This is why I think some of the theory does make sense, because I wouldn't know what, like, I wouldn't know where to look for, like, what would be the relative
right there? Do you know how to every DAW allows you to do it in a different way, but the transpose function, so you know how if you do like 12 steps, that's an octave, right? So if you do 3 steps down, if you have a major key, right, you do 3 steps down, that's the relative minor. And if you have a minor key,
for the whole chord, or like basically for every note, right? Or
for just period. Like if you have a whole song and it's in, let's say, this major key, right?
Okay, gotcha.
You take that song, you for me, I right click and it has like a little transpose, and I put -3. Then now it's in its relative minor. But what I would do is keep that major thing, right? And I would find something else that's in whatever key it's in. But it has to be a minor key. Whatever minor key. If I have a major thing here, I get whatever minor sample, and I would put it here and change it to this.
Right.
The original sample's relative minor.
Got you. Okay.
And then see if those work. Sometimes it still might not work, but sometimes the reason it doesn't work is just a certain section. So I'm like, okay, what if I just cut that section out and let the rest of it rock? And I'm like, oh, this is cool. All right, let's work with that. You know? And so it's once you know the stuff, the application of it is actually really simple. But it's knowing it before you do it that helps in terms of the experimentation process. You know what I'm saying? That part, I feel that I do it a lot without understanding anything, that I go into -3 and -5. Does -5 have any? -5, yeah, that's the perfect fourth, I believe. And when you have a perfect fourth and perfect fifth, those tend to, they're called perfect because they tend to work with each other. Okay. But like you said, you were doing it and you just like, I like this. And I noticed that around these numbers, I tend to like things more. I mean, what you introduced a new part in this, that I can actually take mixing. I avoid mixing majors and minors simply because I don't know how to mix them, you know, and I haven't found, like you just gave me a perfect shortcut to try these things, because I stumbled over some examples where it was clearly a major and a minor and they worked together through. Now, thank you so much. This just expanded my brain. So that's really cool. So I want to help people like realize that a lot of the theory they're already doing. It's just that once you know what you know, you can do it repeatedly, intentionally, and know what you did. You know what I'm saying? But it's not, I don't feel like it's I know more than these people. It's just that I got taught what to call the thing you're already doing. That's really it. I just got taught the name of it. You know more in that specific case. It's okay. Sure. It's okay to know more. It's that piece. And I receive that. I think that's more so from like a part of me that I don't know if it's good, but it's also part of me. The competitive side of me. It's like, man, I used to have this feeling. This is still me in some ways, but more so before. Where like, oh, this person, man, they're good, but they just know stuff I don't. It's not that like they're better than me. You get what I'm saying? Like if I knew what they knew, I could do that. I just don't know it. And so because I have that feeling, I also like project that on others. Like, oh, it's not that I'm better than you. It's just that if you knew what I knew, you could do things I probably couldn't think of because your life is different than mine. You know, the things, how music filters through your experience is different than how it filters through me. And it's such a perfect example of what, I don't know how it is to you, but this is what I find so inspiring in Sidechain, that people share this knowledge without the shade of like, I will keep my competitive edge. It's just like such an inclusive environment where people just exchange information specific to this field in a very open manner. What do you like about this gang? What appeals to you? I actually, that's been a big part of why I enjoy it. Because there's so many jewels that are just shared freely. And it's not that it's just shared, it's that, oh, my chair did something weird there. But it's like they're sharing it not with anything in mind, but because they want to hear what dopeness you have to offer the world too, you know? And I didn't realize how rare that was until I involved myself in some other communities. And I was like, oh, that doesn't happen everywhere. Cool. And no community is perfect, of course, but this has been one of the most inclusive, like legitimately everybody wants to hear everybody's dope stuff because it's dope, like real simple. It's not trying to be super, it's just, we like dope stuff, we're dope. Here's how you can do more dope stuff. Oh, cool. Thanks for that. So here's how you can do more dope stuff. Oh, cool. That's a great place to be in. And I do appreciate that about this movie.
Absolutely. I do. Yeah.
I feel like that's the way to be, And like I said, nobody will do anything like you because nobody's you. We have the same tools and we make different pictures,
Mm-hmm.
So it only benefits us if we want to see more pictures to share how we make pictures, because it's not going to be the same anyway. Mm-hmm. And that's at least how I feel about it.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, obviously, like we all love drums and we all like crazy patterns, but everybody sounds so different. Exactly. It's almost like a fingerprint thing. How do you drums? They do cut through. I ain't influenced. Yeah, y'all chapters, but now I keep my. What's your go-to to make them cut through and make them prominent?
Gotcha. Well, like 95% of the drums I use are slappy drums. That's the first.
Okay.
That's the first part. And I think, at least lately, I've been focusing on mixing in mono, and I had a different mentality about mono versus stereo before I went to drum place, and I was asking some questions like, I feel like I'm just not getting certain things. I'm like, no, I just have a specific reason to mix in stereo. It's mixing mono. It's like, oh, I thought it was for this and that reason. I think what I had previously believed was put everything in mono except the musical track, so that everything can be heard in the middle and the track can surround it. But even that was kind of like me just following a rubric and a rule, not me being intentional about every step of it. And I didn't know that I was doing that until he was like, oh yeah, is there a specific reason you put this specific thing in stereo? And I was like, no. Like, yeah, just throw them on. And then when you master, you can do that in stereo. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm still learning that process, but just opening my brain up that much, I've realized gave my drums a lot more clarity, because I was doing things to try to get an end result, but it was just kind of following a track that I thought had to be followed, with mixing in stereo. If you wanted to be heard, why it was, I just did things wrong. So I think that hopefully I'm answering the question correctly. But at least in terms of the drums and them sticking out, mixing in mono and using mono drums helped a lot. I feel that.
Okay. Did you have any musical purchase last year that kind of inspired you and changed stuff? The 404 was like this very, but that's like what 2 years ago. More like,
yeah, that was
black out, so they press rewind. I act out just the 2 times.
18, 4 years ago.
18, when I got 404, yeah.
Something that you got yourself last year to shift things up.
Oh, I guess I'm still figuring out how to use it, but I realize it's affected my music a lot. It was this plugin that was on sale, and what was it called? The Abbey Road Saturator. I think it's usually like $250 or something. It was on sale like that, and a bunch of other ones like $100 or something. Like, it was some crazy sale, and I just so happened to got paid that day. I'm like, you know what, picking that up, and the effect it's had on me is not necessarily just in my, like when I put the plugin on, but it was actually because I was doing it wrong. Like I put the plugin on, like, why is it like making things peak and like clip? Like, what's wrong here? I didn't realize that my tracks were too loud to all my plugins. That changed how I make music, because now I'm mixing way, way softer to then let the plugin bring the sound up. I'm like, this is so much better, So that kind of changed everything, kind of indirectly. The plugin itself is cool too, but it kind of highlighted another thing I was doing wrong. Like, okay, the plugins need them to be at a certain volume to work properly. Noted. And in retrospect, I heard it before, but it wasn't as prominent as when I got that plugin. I was like, why does this sound like it's making my music sound worse? What's going on here? So that changed a lot for me.
That's cool. Now that's a nice purchase. I like that. This, like, what are you up to explore this year? Do you have like I will tackle this musically?
Oh, yeah. I want to start singing more and using my guitar again in my stuff. Because guitar is still my main instrument. Like, I used to teach at a conservatory in Huntsville, guitar lessons. And it feels weird saying that, and I have used it so little in my music. And so, like, I'm looking at one of my guitars right now as I'm saying that, so I'm looking over here. I kind of talk to my instrument sometimes. Like, I apologize to Tay. I let her know, like, hey, I'm sorry for that.
I do that too.
I give them names, like, you know, that one's Tay. I have Ezekiel and Valkyrie in the closet. Yeah, that's what I'm exploring this year.
Why is one a girl and the other one is a boy?
Yeah, well, no, actually, Ezekiel was the name of my first guitar. That one got stolen. The one in my closet, one of them hasn't been named yet because I just couldn't figure out what. The other one is Ezekiel. The one that hasn't been named is a dude. Ezekiel is a girl, and Tay is a girl. Yeah, Tay is my acoustic.
It kind of stroked my ear that there was a lot of guitar in the beginning in your tracks. Then you mentioned that due to the accident, to the injury, you weren't able to play. So I guess this is why the guitar didn't make a comeback. But yes, it just disappeared. And it's why did you remove this from the musical vocabulary?
The accident happened before the injury that made me stop playing guitar was after the accident. There was two different.
Which one is which?
So 2017, November 6th, I got hit by a Toyota Tacoma. I'm going 45, and I was riding my bicycle at the time. And I was making a right into my driveway. And as I was making the right is when it hit me from behind, so it hit me on the right side. And I got a concussion. I tore my MCL, PCL, ACL, and damaged my tibia plateau. I had a tibia plateau fracture, and also broke my right thumb. Yeah, but that was from the accident. So, then I was in bed, and then that's why I found Fruity Mobile, and I started making music while I was still recovering on the phone. And then I started playing guitar when I was able to get out of bed and sit in a chair and stuff like that. And then I transitioned to my computer, started making music on Studio One. But fast forward a couple of years, I injured my back playing guitar, funny enough. And because the guitar, I have a Les Paul, and those are kind of heavy. And I overestimated how ready I was to play for that long with that amount of pressure on one side, not sitting properly. My knee doesn't have as much flexibility, so I couldn't sit like straight, and I wasn't paying attention to it. A lot of it is also negligence on my end. Like, I'm still learning how to navigate it and be with what I have now, the cards that I have now. But because of those bad decisions and that setup, I injured myself. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to put the guitar down for a while. So yeah, the injury wasn't as bad as the accident, but it was specifically to the.
So yeah, I hope you're recovered or recovering. Is it like, I mean, it is a while back now. So how do you feel now?
It's still an issue. I don't have full range of motion at all. There's a lot of details going into that, but that's one of the things where it's like, I had to get, and I'm still making my way to this point, but I'm way closer to where I was before, where if nothing changes, I gotta be okay with where I am,
Mm-hmm.
And I still gotta live, not just trying to survive, because surviving sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I started making decisions like, all right, I'm gonna start collecting canes since I gotta walk with one anyway, might as well be fly with it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or just using that as part of my persona and trying to champion, the cause of being disabled. And like, yeah, I'm a producer, but I'm also disabled, but not because I'm trying to get sympathy, but because like if I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna try to own it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is part of my flavor, you know. And some days are harder than others, but everybody has their thing that's tough. This is just one of them.
Okay. Like in guitar, I take it you play them with pedals, or at least it sounded like you have a bunch of pedals. Are you
From Instagram, funny enough, that got stolen. I had a pedal, but
uh-huh.
that was before I even had an Instagram. So I haven't played with an effect pedal for a minute.
How do you affect the pedal, the guitar tone then? Sent through.
The speaker I have has like a knob, and you can change the effects on the actual speaker.
Okay.
I would just choose what effect I want on there and
Okay.
just work through. Yeah.
But is there in your musical arsenal something like a all-time favorite? Yeah, something that you just love.
Yes, actually, and I want to make a video from this. I want to send it to drums. I use the metronome in a way that helps me a lot, because one of the biggest things I've gotten from Controllerise is realizing how people use the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Like how things could be, and I always see things in a grid because of my choral background, like sheet music. But like you have something on the beat, but then depending on where you drag it relative to the actual center of it, you can create these different pockets. And I use the metronome. I've learned to use the metronome as a way to explore the pocket. And it's, I want to see if I can try to explain it. Like I'll have the drum, the kick and the snare, and I'll put it in the general configuration and the hi-hat, kick, snare, hi-hat, right? Then I'll mute the hi-hat and just have the kick, snare, and I'll turn the metronome on. And the kick, snare is all aligned directly to the grid. But then I will drag the kick and snare, and sometimes just a kick, but in this situation, kick and snare slightly before, slightly after, while the metronome is on. So then here, what pocket does it create with the metronome? Because once I set that up and I find something that like, okay, that's cool. I take the metronome out and I unmute the hi-hat, and the hi-hat will replicate what the metronome was doing. And now every other sample that I sample onto those kick and drum and hi-hat will still have that pocket feel, because now the whole foundation of the music has been set up to have this pocket. So that's everything you even try out and put on there and just align it to the grid, it will just automatically have this pocket because you set the metronome to have the pocket. That's my favorite thing in the dog, because like even basic things can sound so different once you just like set the pocket foundation.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm in Disney World. Like I just go through my samples, like just go through throw them all on there, just throw them on. Is that cool? It sounds cool, but let's try some other stuff. After I do, it just gets real fun. So yeah, I'd say that's my favorite thing right now.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so cool. That is very Zen somehow to me. It sounds like, yeah, my favorite thing is a metronome. It's so cool.
It's so fun. And sometimes I don't even end up making anything. Like I'll go through a sample, like none of these hit for real, but hearing them in the pocket kind of just, I don't know, it's really cool. Really dope. I like the idea of things being in places that don't belong, but sound cool. It's fun.
While talking of like being in this metronome pocket, is there something that you love in production or in music that most people don't? They don't do that. They don't like, but you do, and you love it.
I feel like I don't even know how to answer this because I don't know what people don't do. Like maybe I need to, because I can hear something, right? And I could say, okay, based on what I know, I can assume what they did. But then I could ask them, they could be like, oh no, I just did this over here. And that produced the same result. But so I don't even know. I can't quite say because I don't know people don't do. But okay, I can answer it this way. I like chord progressions that fool you. I feel like people don't do that enough. Like there might be a minor song, and this happens often, fairly often in popular music, but not often in the beat making community, where they'll have a song that has this chord progression, let's say it's minor, and then all of a sudden they throw a major at you, or they throw a borrowed chord at you, or they throw something in there. If you were just listening to it, you would assume it was going to this place, and then it goes somewhere else. And because I like that, I do it. But I think maybe it's just not a priority for some people. So I don't think it's like can't. It's just that that's not what they find dope necessarily. But I love that shit. And so when I hear it, even if the beat is just quite simple and just, I will love the fuck out of that track because it's like, oh my gosh, I love being musically deceived. Yes, do it more, please.
That's cool.
So that could be an answer for that. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yes, I should probably rephrase this because it is not supposed to be an ultimate statement that just what you just said, like things that really appeal to you that you just don't hear often enough. Like you wish it would happen more often, but it's just, something that you do kind of propagate it silently, put it in your work.
Right. So that's really why I want, it's kind of selfish, but I feel like it's a good selfish. That's really why I want a lot more of the people that I know make beats to get a little bit of theory knowledge, just because I want to hear what they come up with to deceive me musically. Like I just want to like, hey, look at these tools you can use to make chaos. All right. cool. I want to see what you do. So I really enjoy that feeling. Like, it's great.
From that, would you or could you derive some piece of musical advice that was given to you or that you learned over time that you would like to pass on, that is just like this, like deceived by chord progression? Like, is there
advice? I would say try not to give like a too much of a general one, because I feel like that if I can give a specific one, it would be what I mentioned earlier. Learn relative majors and minors, because I feel like that will open the door for a lot of people to one, use a lot of what they already have and thought they couldn't use, and then they can hear more things, and then they can just make more things, especially the sample-based producers. If you're using things that already exist, they already have their key, they already have their, their melodies. I would say just take the time to learn how to apply relative majors and minors. And then go fucking crazy. and just the practice of combining things, at least for me, was such an eye-opening experience when I first started doing that. Because I'm like, oh wow, you can really and truly just about make everything fit with everything else. So I can have this Beethoven piece and take this excerpt from it and make it work with 2 Chainz. and then glue it with Paramore. And I could just, and if I get so much joy from that, and I feel like, man, what would that create through the lens of this other person who also makes beats and produces with their flavor. That's probably crazy. So I would say that, just to give like a specific answer, actionable, specific answer. My general answer was just going to be theory isn't as scary as it seems. But I feel like that's every person who knows theory, they're going to say that. So
would you encourage though people to stick some time into theory?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I would say I wouldn't say approach it like you're trying to learn math. It's also, I studied math in college, so I'm probably also not qualified. I like math, so you know. But I would say approach it. I feel like a lot of the issues with math is people see calculus 3 and feel like if they don't know cal 3, just if you look at cal 3 and that's scary, then fuck all math. But it's like, no, like learn addition at least so you can get paid, you know, learn subtraction so you know that your bank account's not where it's supposed to be. Like you don't have to learn cal 3 for math to serve you. You know what I mean? So in theory, you don't necessarily have to learn borrowed chords and all the key signatures and stuff for it to serve you. You know, I would say just get the basics down, and based on the talent of everybody I've heard, like they're already well way enough, like they can get the basis of theory, I promise. It doesn't have to be at any level. Just, you can even be learn it as you need it. You know, like, oh, I'm a relative major minor. Okay, let me learn majors minors, and that's it. You don't got to learn all theory. You don't have to continue. Just learn it and then apply it. And then when you're ready for the next bit of it, then just grab what you need, apply it. I would definitely, whatever way you have to do it, I would definitely encourage getting into theory. It just gives you more tools to make more chaos. You know?
Nice statement. I like that. I dig that a lot. Using theory to create more chaos sounds like I dig that. I want to make more chaos on purpose.
Exactly. I just want to make a purposeful chaos. Yes. That's the vibes right there.
How does your release process? So let's say you have a bunch of tracks. How do you let them go? When do you know that it's like, okay, let's put these things together, and push them out?
Honestly, a lot of times it is chaos. There are, most of the times I've realized that, at least for me, and what I have put out is I'll just start gathering songs that are close to being done, or well, primarily songs that are done or close to being done. And then I would hear a theme as I'm just listening to it. So I really try to let the music lead rather than me lead the music. So for example, my Moonwater project, I just happen to have a lot of songs that either reference music or reference water or sound watery. And I'm like, why am I making so many water? I guess I need to make a water album since I have all these water ass songs. All right, I guess that's what's happening, you know? And so, yeah, a lot of times it's more so like, okay, with what I have, what vibes is it giving me? And I'll craft the project around the music rather than try to make the music fit. It just feels easier, for me at least.
Are you trying to release more?
Yes, but I am in a position where I am not depending on my music, at least yet, to like sustain me. Because I feel like people who are in that position have a different list of priorities. You know what I'm saying? Which I wouldn't say is worse or better, it's just different priorities. You know what I'm saying? For me, when it comes to my music, because it's not there to sustain me, I'm really in this place where it's like, okay, I really can kind of do what I want here. How does releasing more music serve me right now? And for me, the benefit is more so like, music has saved my life on so many occasions. I really feel like I just need to put music into the world because I know that I needed certain songs. I needed to hear certain things to get through certain experiences. If there's somebody out there that needs to hear some that I make, and I'm just in my head about, oh, this is perfect, or oh, I need to, and being just hesitant about releasing music. It's like, damn, what if I could have helped person A out by just releasing music and they could have gotten through this thing because I knew I needed it when I was going. That's my primary approach. But also, if you need music to sustain yourself, I wouldn't say that might be the wisest idea. Maybe you need to be more of on a schedule, like structured consistency plan. And I'm working on consistency myself. But yeah, so the answer is yes, I am pushing myself to release more music, but my reasons behind it is different because of the position I'm in.
Like, what would you say is your struggle musically? Well, maybe struggle is not the right word, but something that you're sparring with, like trying to be better at.
I am there are two things in particular that came to mind to that. One is knowing when something is good enough to be released, and that if doing more would be now me masking my insecurities as perfectionism. That's really easy for me to do. So that's one. And two, the other thing I struggle with is I hear in my head what I want things to be. And sometimes I feel like I am not a good enough producer yet to make it what I hear in my head. So should I wait till I get better to release this, or am I doing the thing again, I guess that's still the first one. What was the second one? Now I can't remember. There was another point. Struggle. I'm still struggling to translate the mixing and master lessons that I get into my DAW. That's why a lot of my songs are quiet because I haven't mastered them yet. A lot of times I want my bass to be louder and more present, but I haven't figured out like how to. Like I've been to somebody's place and they've done it on their DAW, and I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And I go to my DAW and I'm like, this makes no sense. I saw it, I thought I understood, but wait, how? And it's like, I'm there, I'm paying attention. I'm like, yes, okay. Like, I saw what you did there and it makes sense. And I get home and I try to do it and I struggle with pressing on. That was the second thing. Okay. Being self-defeating.
Self-defeating.
On, yeah, like I'll get stuck on something or think I understood something and I'm trying to apply it. And it's like, damn, I feel bad because one, it sucks to feel that way. Two, I feel like I don't want the person who taught me to feel like I'm not doing anything with what they've given me. It's like, I want to show them that I appreciate that they poured into me and like actually like, apply the thing that they taught me. But I'm trying. And it's not doing the thing. And so that was the second one, like the self-defeating. Because when I get there, I'm like, I'm just not gonna do it. And I'll do something else. And again, if you need music to sustain you, if that's where you are, that's not necessarily a good thing. I don't know. But that's something I'm working on. I would like to get out of my own way.
What strategy do you have currently to overcome this, to get out of your your own way?
Some things that I go to is take a break. That's a very basic, go-to thing. But I got to remember to get back to it. But another thing I do is sometimes those are the moments where I just like, let's just close this, save it where it is, open a new clean slate, work on one of the things in my backlog. A lot of times that's the thing I try to do. Just do a completely different idea. A lot of times I might get genre stuck. It's like, why does every freaking pattern I make sound like the same thing? let me just make a different genre. And sometimes that's like genre hop. Like, I'm gonna make a house song. Lo-fi is not happening, we make house. House not working. All right, fuck it. I'm gonna make a rock song. We're making a rock song today. You know, because it's not available. And a lot of times that will get me sparked back up, because it's like, oh, okay, now I'm hearing something I like in a completely different. There's less judgment because I'm not comparing it to something that I've been doing. It's just new. And so I can give myself more grace. It's easier to give myself more grace because it's just new territory right now. You know?
Do you try to keep a daily routine, or is it more loose with your musical process? Like, do you try to sit down every day?
I do try. The key word is try, though. But I do try to, every day, I at least open my DAW and look through and try to make some clicks happen. And, you know, a lot of times my ADD serves me and I get distracted into productivity. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Oh yeah, I wanted to try this. Oh yeah, this thing on my backlog I recorded the other day, I thought about that again today and I want to try that. But in terms of how much I do per day, I try to stay loose on that because I personally have some triggers around productivity and the pressure of that due to, you know, some stuff that happened. So for Anton Reed, for me, I know that I can't put productivity goals. I just have to put consistency goals. And then, does that make sense? Yes.
Is it attached to the anxiety, and like, does productivity trigger anxiety or trigger depression with you? Is it something that?
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't always. I used to be a person who was a machine. Like probably unhealthily. Like I was in a situation. Actually wrote a song about it. Coming soon. Single coming soon. But it was a situation where like every day I would be up in the morning and reading books and going out and trying to build business and then working and then like being the keynote speaker for a meeting that night and then staying up to like 4 a.m. to talk to my team and then waking up again at 8 to go to work and then it was crazy, but I volunteered to do that stuff, you know? And it ended, there was a big, without getting into the deets of that, some things went down and what I was trying to develop didn't pan out. And that kind of gave me some trauma when it comes to productivity goals, where I feel, and maybe this might help other people going through it, because like I kind of make up expectations other people have of me in my head. And I have this fear of letting people down. And because, you know, when things, especially when it's like school and stuff like that, come easy to you, people call you these things like, oh yeah, you're talented, you're smart, you're this, you're that. And like, okay, so people think of me up here. And if you do anything lower than that, it's like, you know, and then being a Jamaican and a West Indian household, that's a whole another bag of worms. So for Anton and my deck of cards, there's a lot of anxiety tied to productivity goals. But I realize I can still achieve those goals if I only set consistency goals. Like, can you just try to do the thing every day? Rather than when you do the thing, make 3 songs a day, you know, or make a song every I did that once. I did like a song every day for 30 days, like a while ago, and I was okay. And then I tried to continue it and I got triggered again. But this is just Anton, what's been working for me is kind of reduce the size of the goal.
Yeah.
The frequency of it.
Did you actually like, did you consult someone with those? I mean, realizing that you struggle, that you have some sort of depression or anxiety issues, or even insomnia, that you couldn't sleep for, like you just couldn't go to bed. We're making music in the morning, which is just not the, you know, skipping like burning the midnight oil because like you need to make a project. This sounds more like insomnia, basically, something that occupies your mind, it doesn't let you go. Is it that type of sleep deprivation that you were struggling with, or?
I don't know. I think it's insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been like diagnosed by a professional, but you know, it's basic roots. There are times when I want to go to sleep and I can't, and that happens more often lately. Sometimes it's a physical thing, like because of everything going on. Sometimes I just can't get comfortable enough to fall asleep, even though I'm not in pain. But it's due to things that I used to be in pain before. Other times my mind is just racing, and I have to like sleep sounds and drown it out. But oftentimes, like, I end up staying up later when I try to force myself to sleep, rather than just getting up and doing something and getting tired again and then going to sleep, you know? And a lot of times that's when the music happens, like at 3, 4 a.m. I can't sleep. I try to sleep, but let me just try to make something. And if it tires me out, then mission complete. I can go to sleep now, you know? Doesn't something happen? And a lot of times that's when the magic happens for some reason in those hours. But you did ask if I talked to somebody about it.
Yeah.
I had a therapist, but now that you're bringing it up, I'm realizing I never brought that up to them. It was for a different situation that was going on. But they actually did help in a lot of ways, because, you know, different people help, and even not even different people. One person will have multiple reasons for not being able to sleep. And the things she was helping me with did help me get more sleep, because those were worked out and resolved. But I would like to continue talking to somebody about it, but you know, that costs money. So we're working on that. Or in here in the United States.
I definitely, I feel like I should get into therapy to figure certain things out, because I'm not sure. Were you diagnosed with depression, or is it just a feeling that you feel depressed and this is just a struggle? Or
my backlight is dying while it's on the charger. That's good. So I tried to turn it up. All right, my computer screen will work now. When I spoke to the therapist, she confirmed it. But before I spoke to her, I just realized that I know what I used to be, and it felt like every time I tried to be who I know I can be, you know, like sometimes it's not that something is going on that's actually stopping you from doing a thing. But then what do you point to when you know you want to do a thing, but you just can't bring yourself to do it? And you know you're not lazy because you've done so much and you're doing so much. Like, why? What? You know? Sometimes you're just too close to the painting to see what's in the painting. So after I spoke to her, she was like, yeah. But also I'm like, I realize I also have a lot of privileges, you know, like there's a lot of good happening. There's a lot of reasons why I'm in not a horrible situation. And I realize my depression doesn't interrupt my life as much when I dwell on those things. But I would advocate that one doesn't wait to be depressed to talk to somebody. Because I feel like you can squeeze more out of yourself when you know yourself more. And again, it's like, you know, you can never fully learn yourself, but especially when all you're comparing yourself to is yourself. You know, it does take an outside perspective to kind of give you some insight on yourself you can't see.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, those professionals are professionals for a reason. And is there any book that you would recommend as an additional read on this topic?
See, funny enough, I used to read like a book a week. Back when I was the machine that I refer to. And that's been one of my traumas. Like I can't bring myself to read one of those now because it's a requirement actually. I was doing before. But I have read a lot of things that just weren't books. I would say what helps me out is whatever I spend the most time on, find a way to implement. Well, maybe it's easier to explain if I say what it is that helps me. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. So to help myself out, I follow a lot of pages on Instagram that uplift me. That I find representation of. That I can read posts of people going through what I'm going through, how they got through it. So whatever that is for other people, I would say find a community, but implement it in a way where you will run into it when you're not planning to. You know, that it finds you. Set it up so that it gets in your way. And if it's a book, then read that book. You put it, I don't know, if you go to your desk every morning, put it in front of your screen so you have to move it out the way. But that's what I had to do for me. I realized I'm in a situation, and with my deck of cards, like people probably don't have trauma with books. I don't know. I don't know if that's weird, but I do. But yeah.
See, it does seem that you are now in a better place. Like, did it happen? When did you go into therapy? When did it?
That was 2020?
2020.
Was it 2019? Actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. I went in twice. Same person. I just had to get my money right in between it. But I think one was the first time was towards the end of 2019. And again, 2020, where I spoke to a therapist. She was great. She was amazing. Yeah, those are the times.
Okay.
Definitely hit her up. Get some more in.
Well, congrats. I mean, this is how it feels to me. It's like you have to overcome this inner, like, I can do this, and go seek out help, because it's a serious issue, and it's like there is no shame in doing this.
Yeah. I advocate, especially men. We tend to be the ones to not and try to stick through things, but I feel like I'm not going to take that whole tangent. I have one of the causes that strikes deep for me is the plight of men, specifically Black men in America. Naturally, that's who I am. But a lot of times we value ourselves on what we do and produce. That's so anything in life can take away your production ability. But then what's left? You got to love that person, not that person makes, not the things that person can do for other people, not even the things that person would do for you when you're talking about yourself, but just you. And a lot of us are not even given space to explore who we actually are separate from what we do. And that I feel like we all need to dig into. But it's hard to do it by yourself, man. Yeah. It's hard to do anything other than what you've been taught to do your whole life, whatever that is. Yeah. Therapy is great.
Результатов перестройки.
Shout out to therapy.
Shout out to therapy. That's especially with everything going, the world burning down around us. You know, therapy.
It's the right time to get some uplifting moods back.
Now I was just going to say, in terms of therapy, this is the last part I'll say on that, because I just really want to make sure. I know for me, it's for the same reason I don't watch like what people consider chick flicks. Like, I don't feel like feeling all those feelings. What the heck? Why would I do that for free? Like for no reason? Like, there's already enough stuff in my life that make me feel sad. Why would I voluntarily feel sad. I just, you know, but it's not all sadness. Sometimes therapy is like, oh, wow, I'm more dope than I thought I was. I have more power than I thought it was. I can actually get rid of this knot in my chest that's been plaguing me for 3 years. I didn't know why, you know? There is also some sad, but, you know, a couple hours of sad a week versus 5 years of actually loving yourself. So it's a cool trade-off, I think. So, yeah. Therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely on my list. On my list this year is to go visit a dog and see what I got at the. I need someone to give me the tools because I don't know what to do. I literally just, you know, cross fingers, close my eyes, and hope that this ends like in a couple of months. Which yeah, it's a cyclic thing, but it's like, yeah, Nikolai, it doesn't sound like a good strategy. You can't close your eyes on life for a couple of months.
Right. Keep doing this, man. Yep, that's it right there. Once you get to the point where it's like, you can't keep doing this, man. I think that's, you reach the point where it's like, all right. It's time to go.
Yeah.
It's not gonna serve you if you don't want it. That's the hidden key. So
Definitely.
it's a good place to be in.
Maybe to lighten this up, what would you say was the most successful thing that happened that you reached last year? What was the yes?
Launching my cybersecurity business and releasing new
Protocol.
Those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Cybersecurity is fairly new for me. That's what I kind of depend on to sustain me.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, imposter syndrome is a real thing. You know.
Even though you got certified, and I think you got several certificates, right, on cybersecurity.
Certifications, but
certifications.
I also don't have a bachelor's degree. I dropped out of college. And so it's like, yeah, I have these certifications, but a lot of people are like, oh, well, you don't have a college degree, so no. I'm like, that's great. But yeah, I dropped. That was a whole. We can talk about that. I just don't want my ADD sometimes will get sidetracked, and then I forget the original. So I'm trying my best to stay on track. But see, I almost forgot what I was saying. Successful things, yes. Launching a cybersecurity brand meant a lot for me because it represented a part of me where I felt like I was letting people down.
Mm-hmm.
And we already spoke about that trigger because academically I was always strong in school.
Mm-hmm.
Always had grades. When I dropped out, I had a 3.6 GPA.
Mm-hmm.
Studying applied mathematics and chemical engineering and minoring in business management. I'm doing well, but due to some circumstances, it was just got. Talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But I dropped out, and naturally, there's optics with that. There are optics. I remember one time I was trying to talk to this girl, and she was like, "No, I don't talk to nobody without a college degree." I was like, "Oh." You know, in every facet of life, people look at you different, man. It's crazy. Funny enough, that person started messaging me afterwards, and we're friends now. I was like, oh yeah, I thought you did. Yeah, I didn't forget. If you're watching this, I didn't forget, nigga. I didn't forget. But but it's like, okay, so what now? What do you do? Is this just are you just gonna wild? This is me talking to me, like, what do you do about it now? So I was like, all right. Due to a lot of things that happened, I was like, I'm gonna get into cybersecurity. Got into it. It was fun. But then I found myself struggling to find employment because I didn't have a college degree. It's like, what the heck? And that was right at the top of when COVID started hitting the world. So it just like, eventually I talked with this guy from New York. I was working with him and we worked together with me and we launched my brand. And I was like, wow, I actually have something I can look at and say, hey, look, like on one end is, hey, look, I am still utilizing the intelligence that I was blessed with. And for me personally, I felt like by letting people down, I was letting myself down. But that was like a personal victory. Like, no, this is mine. Like I am putting my mark in the world as somebody pioneering this thing that's actually a little difficult. And I'm figuring it out. And as I'm figuring it out, I'm actually servicing people and helping them. And it just feels like, okay, I have something separate from my music to be like, hey, like, even though we don't value based on what we produce, I still produce this. You know, it's still a good feeling. It feels good for my ego. It feels great for a lot of things. So I'm really proud of that. Moonwater in particular, the reason I'm proud of that is because I always, when I got into music, like when I really started pursuing it, which is after the accident, I told I have a very clear picture of what I want to accomplish in music, but I didn't have a clear picture of the small steps to do that. You know, I felt like Moonwater in particular was one of the first projects where I was like, you know what? This is me doing it. You know, in terms of like, this is not just an album that I'm trying to release to be dope. It's like, no, this is really like when I'm meditating in my room with my music, this is what helps me meditate. So maybe this can help other people in a way that maybe is not explored, because I haven't heard a lot of meditative lo-fi, you know? So like, I needed that. So, hey, you can have this world. And that relationship I really wanted to get to, but I felt like I wasn't good enough as a producer to do it yet. You know, so those two things I'm really proud of.
Oh, that's dope. And I mean, congrats. Shout out to you to doing both. I like the project, the water project as a body of work. Those are dope vibes. And I like you doing the security. Like it's a very timely thing, actually. I think people are sleeping on this.
So, right? I had no idea myself how timely it would be. Again, this is something that I think people are like, whatever, you know, like I store my passwords in my browser, it's all good. But it's like, times are coming. It's like, yeah, the recent log4j thing that exploded. It's like, it's yeah,
you gotta do this every now and then. Just let the expert check your machines at home. Let it see where you at, who has your data.
Right. Let's make sure it's just you, and if not, let's fix that.
So that's dope. That's dope. I hope it takes off and you kind of find the niche. I obviously hope that you get like the corporate clients that will be able to work, you know, some companies, some small businesses that you can get those, basically a subscription thing going on with them, just to, you know, support that company, support their infrastructure, just like, because I think there is a lot of value especially for businesses, because as you know, like at home, if my computer gets, like if somebody cracks my cards, they will have my money. But in the company, like if they get hacked, or if a simple virus attack can put you in crazy problems, like 2 days of no IT in the company is a shitload of loss. It's like actual money loss per minute. So
right. Scales, that's crazy.
I think you got it. I think you're on it.
Yes, sir.
So.
Yes, sir. I receive all of that. Definitely. Feels good.
Is there any any skill that you would like to gain, or that you think like, oh, that would be dope. This is something that I need to make all this other stuff work better, or something like that.
Definitely a lot of them. But the one that I feel like is the most blaring one for me, and I'm thinking still music, right? Or you're thinking cybersecurity also.
Oh, whichever you pick.
I was thinking music initially, and I really think I still get better with my mixing and mastering. Like, I really like where I am in terms of like my creation process, but I feel like when it comes to making it come to life fully, you know, I can definitely get way better at that. Because there are times when it happens, and I thought I knew why it happened, and I try to make it happen again with something else. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize how many other factors were part of how good this mix is. Sample choice, sample quality. There's a song, for example, on BSG, where like it sounds like there's some static. It almost sounds like your speakers are bleeding a little bit. And I had to feel like, why is that happening? Turns out the sample I used, I forgot that I had it was way slower, and I sped it up so much. There's like this part with the lead where he does like a trill kind of thing, but sped up, it sounds like a buzz. It sounds like his ears bleeding. It's like I can't do anything about it. It's part of the sample, and you know, and so it's like there are times when there's variables I didn't realize were a part of why something was the way it was. But I want to get good enough to manipulate sound to always make it sound how I want to make it sound. I know that's a mixing mastering process, and I just know there's some fundamentals of it that I just don't quite get yet. Really want to get those processes down. Like, I'm sure drums is going to be annoyed the amount of times I ask, okay, so mixing. like okay, I know you told me before, but I tried to implement it, and this is what happened. I do it this time. So one more time, bro. Can you like? And it's really because I really feel like once I get that, I feel like it's going to take so many things to the next level. Because even in my creation process, there's things I have now that the composition of it I like, but because it's not mixed right, it's like it's not quite, you know. Like, I don't want to change anything about it outside of its mix, but it's so drastic that it's not even hitting the way it needs to hit at all. And I don't think it needs anything else. It just needs to be mixed and mastered right. You know? And that happens too often for me. So that's the very big blaring get better at this Anton for music. In terms of cybersecurity, I guess, and music, I need to work on my marketing, bro. Like, part of my trauma is also selling myself. That sounds bad. But like telling people, hey, I need this much money for my stuff. You know, just that concept. I have a very big trauma from the same situation back in Huntsville, where I struggle. I'm overcoming the struggle of saying, hey, this is how much you should pay for my work, whether it's music or cybersecurity. I want to get better at that, because at the end of the day, we need money to eat and survive and live and pay rent, you know? I'm not trying to be rich, I'm just trying to be comfortable. And I want to be able to have the freedom to do and create. Can't do that, I'm not making money. So I need to get better at the business aspect of both of these. So
I mean, one thing that helps me to kind of feel secure about asking the prices that we ask is, it is you times experience. It is your passion times experience, what you poured up till now and what you are willing to pour into that service. it is worth more than, I don't know, like the amount that sounds reasonable to you, simply because it's almost like those NFT things, the scarcity of things. The experts are scarce, they are rare. If, therefore you just can't ask for a regular price being an expert. You are taking a risk and responsibility to take to finish a project on time, or take like a huge project in and deliver an excellent service. Excellent service means you are aware of additional risks and additional overhead costs that might arise. This is just you thinking for the client, and therefore it's like it's included in the price. You telling that client, like, I will take care of you. You will sit down, tell me about your problem, go back home and have a nice sleep. And when you come back, it will be done. Another point that makes it easier comes from experience. Like it is based on experience. Once you start doubling prices and having the positive experience of somebody buying at a double, it will just leave that mark in. So I highly encourage doing the exercise, especially in the cybersecurities, especially in business. Like as soon as your brain is involved actively in a task, it's your time, lifetime, and therefore it's a different service. If you can install a software, that's $20. But if you need to show up, that 1 hour can be 20, 50, 100, 500, 5,000. Literally, it can be 5,000 if you can take in an hour of a problem that other people will promise to do in an hour, but will not finish in a month. It's really a good exercise. There is nothing, to me, there is nothing bad in that to up the prices, to make sure you are comfortable as well doing this. You shouldn't be struggling to do your work and to do your best. The third final thing is just the realization that it's just different types of clients. It's not that your service is overpriced. It's maybe not the right client, or this specific client, or this specific target audience does not have that money. That's my statement. Sorry for rambling.
No, that was I'm receiving all that because I need that. Really actually helped shift some things, because I think maybe a lot of my hesitation was really self-centered, but that's made me realize, no, in the bigger picture, these are the principles that it's run by. It's really actually your time and your life, that you're a promise and a dedication you're making to timely delivery. That actually does shift. That helps a lot, bro. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. I believe
that's much too.
Yeah, I can't state it enough that you are definitely, every expert in the game is worth way more. It depends, like, community is one thing, something for the family, something for your for a friend is a different field. But once you approach a business, they need to budget it properly, and you need to make sure you deliver and grow, which automatically means like either you build a team or you make yourself, like, you specialize heavily, which means more education. Like, you need to, those certificates, they cost money. So you need to put that, this is part of your price tag. Once you say like, well, I can secure your machine, means I took that knowledge in. You can do it yourself at zero cost.
Саитов, а в командном спортсмены ГДР.
Spend that year or two, and you will know, like, so think about what you spent to get here, that you are able to clear something out in an hour. It takes years to get there. So that should affect the price tag, because you saved that person years to solve this problem.
That's a really good perspective. I'm gonna write that down. Hold on. Let me. I write a lot of notes in my phone.
My pleasure. Yeah,
years by helping them. So wow, that's gold right there. Like, yeah, my brain is now racing with yeah.
I wish your business to succeed, to solidify, to for you to be able to provide that business. You will definitely be forced to ask for more. And
this is great because like part of the reason I'm proud of that launch is because I don't know everything on this aspect of it. And I'm fighting that now, and that's proof of it. I think that's where a lot of the pride comes from, that there's proof that I'm fighting the idea that everything needs to be right before I do something. You know, I used to get stuck in that place where things aren't right. I don't know everything. I don't know how things are going to go. And so I just wouldn't do a thing because, you know, I actually don't know. It's like a fact is that I don't know. But then it's like, okay, so now what? Are you going to wait? Or so that's my like the way I can, whenever I start to struggle with that again, I can look at that and say, hey, you see this thing you did that you didn't know, but you're figuring it out as you go? Just do that again. Do that again here. And so it kind of creates this loopback. Wow, I use that a lot. But it's like loopback frequency. It's like, okay.
It just I force myself to like, well, gotta deliver, gotta make this happen. It will suck. I will be depressed because it's not up to my standards, but it will get me into a better place, right? And isn't it the same with the production? Like we happily experiment in music, but then get into the trap of like, oh, is it good enough to release? Just what you said previously, right? So it's
man. You just reminded so I'd be remiss if I didn't, because like there's something else I struggle with. I forgot to say it before, or maybe I didn't think to. But also with music, because of my choral background, right? There was a certain level of musicianship that we operated at. But this way of making music is different. So I wasn't there. And that a lot of times is like the source of my insecurity, Max's perfectionism with music. And so it's like, okay, the people who would hear this, the people who know me from that life, they know me at a certain standard musically. And it's like, I would feel this pressure of like, if this doesn't match up to where they know me from, I don't want to release, you know? But it wasn't until I started releasing anyway and saying, fuck all that, that I started to, I'm still not all the way there yet, of course, but I'm so much further along just from me saying, fuck that, I'm releasing anyway. And I know it's not perfect. And I'm saying that because I have a lot of friends who are there with whatever they're doing. And even some people in Sidechain where it's like, you know, I used to be a part of this crew, or I used to do this. And so I don't want to release, man, release your shit, bro. Release it and release yourself from that self-inflicted bondage, because it will be bondage, because I was there. I was there. I just wanted to make sure I said that, because as you said that, it reminded me of that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. One thing that you would like others to avoid, or like a mistake that you did? I mean, we talked about this quite a lot, but would you have this type of a message like, don't make this mistake because it's a mistake that was costly, like to be either time-wise or energy-wise, money-wise. So yeah, please don't do this, people of the world.
Right. I would say don't judge your ability to create based on your skill of execution. That makes sense? Like,
yeah.
Like I had a friend, to give a side example, who was creating the song on guitar, like a metal song. And like, I was like, this is actually dope. This is a dope idea. Of course, like she's working, I think she's better than me at guitar, to be honest. But some of the notes weren't coming out as full as she wanted, you know? And I was like, yo, don't judge yourself based on the execution of your idea. Your idea is golden. You feel me? Like whatever you have to do, I would say get it in a way where you can hear it without you having to play it to hear it, so that you can then fully appreciate your idea. But those are two separate skills. I went to a college where everybody was musical giants. People would sing their faces off, people would play their faces off, and then we were in church, so they would be like church service, and the church musicians would be killing it. Like a lot of big musical giants came from my college. But because I didn't have the skill they had in a particular instrument or in singing, I would downplay myself. And sometimes to this day, I feel like I have regrets of not fully embracing my musicianship while I was there. But I did it because they were able to execute their skill on an instrument. And for me, I didn't realize until I started producing that my skill was in creation. You get what I'm saying? I judge my entire musicianship based on my inability to execute that on an instrument like they were. And so I would say, just please don't underestimate yourself based on your execution of your idea. Understand that your idea is fucking amazing and valuable and needed. We all need all of our ideas. Just work on your skill as you can, but just don't fall into that trap that I did.
That's super dope. That's a nice message to kind of to wrap this up. I like it. I really love it.
Absolutely. I just really want to hear more dope shit in the world. There's too many dope people. We need more dope shit. That's all.
I fully agree on this. It's way more important to get the ideas out and work on the skill as you go.
That's actually going to make me approach my business differently too. I appreciate you, man. Seriously, you've grown me in this conversation. Like I got a lot of nuggets here. This is dope.
Oh, it's mutual. That's absolutely. I've learned a lot today. So yeah, man. I thank you so much for this convo. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, my guy. This is dope. I need to do this more often. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, R.A.D.I.C, I thank you so much. I just have words of appreciation at this point.
Thank you for having me, bro. This is dope. I really like this series as well. Nikolai, great man. That's like a t-shirt.
I appreciate it.
Merch.
You have a great evening. Thank you so much again. And yeah, I'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Peace out.